Thank y'all for coming out. Today I'm going to be doing an informative speech on Jim Jones and the Jonestown Massacre. So, have you ever heard the phrase, "don't drink the Kool-Aid"? Well, it's an expression that means to not be a mindless follower, to not blindly follow something. Little do a lot of people know, the saying has a rather sick and twisted story behind it, thanks to the horrific cult leader, Jim Jones. Jim Jones was the cult leader of the People's Temple, and through manipulation and lies, caused over 900 people to willingly commit suicide, resulting in the largest mass suicide in history. Now you may be wondering how one man could persuade so many people to think so irrationally. Well, let me tell you about what kind of man Jim Jones was. According to an American Experience article on Jones, he's always been a charismatic man. Even back in high school, he would lead pep rallies to get the school hyped up for the next big game. But his charisma would become most useful once he became a preacher for his newly created church in Indianapolis, Indiana. This church was known as the People's Temple. Jones would take inspiration from Father Divine, a religious leader who believed himself to be God and would demonstrate supernatural powers. Jones would take the same initiative, portraying himself as a godlike character and telling his followers he had all the answers. He could solve all their problems. Jones would go on to acquire a following for himself. Commentary Magazine's article on Jones claims he would go to black neighborhoods and preach messages about equality and inclusivity. Since it was during a time where segregation was still heavily in society, people would get angry at the church and wanting it to be taken down. Jones would then move his church to California and become close to Democratic politicians in an act to fit in. Well, people would grow suspicious once again very soon. Because Jones would host these fake healing ceremonies to boost his following. He would hire actors to portray themselves as crippled people in wheelchairs or sick with cancer, and he'd cure them, just like that. People would catch wind of this again and attempt to take down the church for good. Fearing what might happen to his church and his power, Jones would finally move his church out to the jungles of Guyana. The People's Temple would go on to create a settlement there, which would later become known as Jonestown. The living conditions started out fine, but as more people joined, the less supplies and space they had to work with. The living conditions got so bad that followers began questioning their faith. Congressman Leo Ryan, back in California, would catch wind of this and attempt to extract unsure followers. So, Ryan flew out to Guyana with a team to rescue anyone who wanted to leave. This greatly angered Jones. Jones felt disdain for non-believers, and the fact that they were among his church disgusted him. As Ryan and the rescuees began boarding their plane, Jones sent his men to gun down the entire group. There were no survivors. Jones knew their time has come. Back at Jonestown, Jones and his men began passing out poisoned Kool-Aid to all the church members, claiming that today was the day they're going to die together. Jones still had a strong enough grip on most of the church, so they would oblige, but a quarter of the 900-plus group had to be forced. An article from People's Magazine on Jonestown gives us an inside look at the massacre via two young sisters who survived the incident by fleeing before it all started. They explained that once they returned to the camp, there were bodies everywhere. Everybody was gone. This article goes into an even darker spiral, explaining that 304 of the bodies were children. Before we finish up here, I'd like to say a few things. Jim Jones was a horrible, power-craving man who would do anything to keep his followers in line. Let this serve as a reminder. Never become a blind follower. Hopefully learning the events of Jonestown will have you thinking twice about drinking the Kool-Aid. There we go.
Did it?